Okay, I see.
Okay. All right. Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
There's no echo?
No,
All right.
I turned it down for that reason. Because
Okay.
it's a delay.
Okay. All right. So if you can see me, let's see if anybody else will join. And then we can just start.
Okay.
We've been troubleshooting this thing now for almost 2 hours. Okay. Well, I was hoping to do it live so other people can join in and post comments, concerns, but I'm gonna be uploading it anyway, so see if anybody else. As long as you're able to watch, I hope other people can join in as well. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is another episode of It's Vital. My name is Farah, also known as Nurse Vitals. And today we're going to be talking about, in continuation of our series on mental health and mental illness, we're going to be talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, what everybody calls PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So, post-traumatic stress disorder is defined as a condition that occurs after an event such as a hurricane, if you were a victim of a crime, exposure to combat, or recurrent life events like active duty and combat. If you're a victim of domestic violence, if you live in a war-torn country. So all those are indicators for post-traumatic stress disorder. So when a person has PTSD, trauma can occur from not just actual events, but threatened events. Threats of physical violence or psychological violence, threats of death or physical bodily harm to yourself. And you'll see PTSD manifested in ways such as the person feeling despair. Sometimes they feel fearful, afraid. They can even feel depressed or hopeless. All that stems from PTSD. So the effects of PTSD include constant recall of the traumatic event. And then you start to feel physical symptoms like numbness, loss of emotion, inability to function at work or social events, things like that. So sometimes we see people who may have PTSD and we take it personally. We think it's something that we did, or they don't want to be bothered with us. They don't want to talk to us. They don't call us anymore. We have to be a little more empathetic, put ourselves in the person's shoes who's suffering from PTSD, and recognize that it's not our fault. Rather, it's something that they're going through. Okay? So that's PTSD. So, the reason we're talking about it is because it affects a lot of people, especially military personnel, because their PTSD is kind of different from a regular civilian's PTSD. The things that I just mentioned, such as feeling fear or hopelessness, you may not see in military personnel who has PTSD. They may have, well, they certainly do experience trauma if they've been or are in active combat, and they have nightmares, you know, feelings of anxiety, but they may not necessarily show all the symptoms of a regular person, a regular civilian with PTSD. So today I have a special guest with me who's on the phone. We're trying to get her on video. I've been troubleshooting this thing for almost 2 hours now. I'm not that technically savvy. I don't know what I'm doing, unable to bring her in on camera, but I do have her on the phone. So this person is, I cannot say enough about her. I've known her for over 10 years. She's a fellow nurse. We've worked together side by side at the Veterans Hospital in Atlanta. And the reason I'm bringing her on is because she is a veteran. She comes from a military family. She, like I said, she's a nurse. She's a member of the Air Force. And I'm, you know, glad to say I know her, not only because she's a good person, but I've never met anyone more resilient than this woman. I've never met anyone more resilient, and I'll tell you why. She is also a survivor of Hurricane Katrina. This woman lost her home and all her valuables during the hurricane, and she had to be displaced. And she used to live in Louisiana. Her family still resides there. She still has a home there now. And she also has a home in Atlanta. But like I said, she's so resilient because she's been through so much trauma, so much traumatic events. Somebody else would be knocked down and, you know, it would be the end. But for some reason, she gives me hope. Every time she gets knocked down, she gets right back up in spite of everything that she's going through. So, and she's someone who suffers with PTSD. And she'd be a perfect person to talk to about this. So all of you listening out there who are suffering with PTSD and emotional and physical trauma, this is for you. I'm going to be posting this video on my YouTube channel, Nurse Vitals, and I'm also going to put it on my podcast. There's a new podcast on Spotify now called It's Vital. And It's Vital is going to be talking about vital issues such as this, PTSD. So we're going to get deep into topics that may be sensitive to some people, but it's important that we talk about them. We share what we know so that we can help others, so anyone who can get something out of it. Okay? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce her. Her name is Miss Iona Marie Stewart. She is an Air Force veteran, a nurse, a philanthropist, a sorority sister, a mother, a sister, a daughter, and most of all, a very good friend. Hello, Iona.
So, Farah, thank you.
Hey, how are you doing?
Just a minor correction.
Mm-hmm.
I only served one tour.
Oh, one tour, okay.
In Iraq.
Oh, Iraq. Okay, I'm sorry. See how much.
Okay.
See how much I know about. Right. See how much I know about the service, right? I do remember that you went overseas, and I was so worried about your safety. Oh my God, that was the worst year ever. I too was suffering from PTSD, and I'm not even the one that was over there. So all I kept praying is for, of course, everyone to be safe, but for you to get back home safely to your two little girls, and, me being selfish to your best friend.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you for your prayer. And I
Yes.
made it back safely.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to be talking about PTSD, and you know, uh, I'll give you the floor. You can say as much or as little as you want. Um, Share with us a little bit of your background. I know I touched on, you being a Hurricane Katrina survivor and etc. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, my background is that I was born and raised in New Orleans. Um, my dad is a retired senior master sergeant of the Air Force, and I also have a sister that is a retired senior master sergeant of the Air Force. Out of them two, they went active duty. I went reserve only because during the time I had a child, and the Air Force had very stiff rules
Mm-hmm.
in regards to single parents being enlisted in the military. So I chose the reserve option because they allowed me to do a family care plan and was still able to maintain custody of my children without having to sign, well, my child at the time, without having to sign that child over. Um, I went in and, well, I enlisted in 97, but I didn't go to basic training until 98.
Mm-hmm.
During that time in basic training, I was 23. So, of course, that was something hard, being that someone that was already staying on their own, had already purchased their own home at 21, 22 years old, had a 3-year old child at the time. So, just transitioning into the military lifestyle was um, kind of hard for me. And the main thing that I was always focusing on was, because I was a reservist, was that once I finished basic training and tech school, I'll be able to return back home um, to my family and what was familiar to me, which was being home in New Orleans. And during that time, I was stationed at it was at Bell Chase, NES Bell Chase, um, where they had a reserve unit that was there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then when Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005, our reserve unit was already looking to be bracked, and it wasn't going to happen until like about 2008. But
Mm-hmm.
because of Hurricane Katrina, it happened early, um, and being displaced, I did evacuate. I didn't have to get rescued or anything. I evacuated the day before the actual storm hit, and we went to Oxford, Mississippi. That would have took about a 6-hour drive to make it to Oxford, Mississippi, where that particular day it was a 12-hour drive.
Mm-hmm.
And all we did was evacuated with 3 days worth of clothes. I love to watch movies, so I grabbed all my DVDs and put it in the duffel bag so that we'll have something to watch. And even during that time of being evacuated, we went to one of my mother's good friends' home, and she allowed us to stay. I stayed there for about a week before I transitioned to come to Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and all I could think of was not necessarily saying, "Oh, I didn't have a job," or "My house was messed up." It was, what's the next thing that I can do? How could I get myself back to, because I knew I couldn't return back home to New Orleans because of all the devastation and the damage, and that my house was damaged. So I was like, what could I do to um, get myself back to some type of normalcy?
Mm-hmm.
And just went on from there, just trying to live life normal. Um, I later transferred to a reserve unit here in Atlanta at Dobbin. And while being in that unit, that's when I did my first tour to Iraq, which was a 4-month tour. That was going to be my first time being away from my children, where I was in um, another part of the world for 4 months. One other time I did do, I guess you could say, a deployment where I went to Spain, but that was only for 2 weeks. And I basically talked to them every day, and I was like, okay, 2 weeks, I'm come back home. But it wasn't any activity that was going on over there while being in Spain. Although we were still in um, Iraqi, in enduring freedom, and well, we were still in Operation Endure Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom. And the first one I did was Operation Endure Freedom. But then when I went to Iraq, I did Operation Iraqi Freedom. That was 4 months, which a lot of people I tell joke about it and say it was 4 months too long. Although not minimizing it or anything like that, but there were other military personnel that had been there, especially the Army, that had been there for like 18 months, and some people were doing 6-month tours. I had a hard time just trying to do the 4-month tour, just being in the environment.
Yes.
Um, I mean, just being there, it was different than being here in the States where you had a lot of freedom. I didn't get the opportunity to um, leave off the base because I was not in a position or a job that required me to leave off the base. So I spent all my time on the base, but it was just a lot of desert. You didn't have any trees. It had a lot of sun, but and then when it rained, it rained. And there were sandstorms, and um, when it rained dirt because the all the dirt that was in the air, that when the droplets came back down, your uniform was just muddy. Um, and a lot of things I was always heightened and frightened about before going. It was just like the fear of the unknown. Would I come back in, one piece? Would I be missing a limb? Uh, would I even make it back alive, back to my family? So through my head um, a lot. I tried making new friends over there, and I want to say a lot of my when I came back home, a lot of my self isolation. I want to say it basically started while I was over there because although I worked in the com squadron with an abundance of people, I worked in the office by myself. So the only interaction I had with my in the office was anyone that came into the office to drop off any paperwork or anything like that because I worked at the um, information management in the orderly room where it's basically like just any other business you may go to is like your executive administrative assistant or your receptionist or anything like that. So I was the first person that you would come to before you can make it to all the bigger people that were in the squadron. So the only interaction I may have had was people coming in to drop off paperwork. But to have a coworker sitting next to me every day talking to me or anything like that, I didn't have that. Um, where everybody else in the building, they may have had like 3 or 4 people working in the room with them. The only people that was like in the room by themselves was like the commander, the first sergeant, and the chief. But for me, I was just in the room by myself. And I tried to, make friends with um, individuals within the squadron, individuals in other squadrons, and everything. But then a lot of time I found myself just doing stuff by myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have the. I would tell them to let me know, hey, when you get ready to, go out to eat or do whatever, let me know. I'll be next door. Whenever you're ready to leave, I'll leave. Then it got to some days I would hear people talking next door, and I was like, nah, no, I just told them when I'm ready to go, I go. I go with them, and then the room would be quiet. And then come to find out they had left me. So I
Mm-hmm.
started just doing a lot of stuff um, on my own, and I guess being there too, I watched a lot of television, and that's still one of my things I do here. Now that I'm back in the
Mm-hmm.
States, is watch a lot of television, which I probably need to slack down on watching it because I'm seeing I'm watching too much of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then once I returned back and had to go back to work at the VA, it was always a struggle for me to get up in the morning. I'll be fine, and I get up in the morning. I turn on the news only to hear the traffic, and then if I hear that there was an accident at 4 o'clock in the morning, that'll like already upset my day because I'm like, okay, now my travel time is gonna be real harsh,
Mm-hmm.
and I just know every day it was just a struggle for me to get up and go to work because I didn't have that, and I knew something was going on with me physically and mentally upon returning, but I had to suppress a lot of that because I was a single parent. And by
Right.
me being that single parent, um, I didn't have nobody that I can rely on. I didn't have a significant other where I could say, you know what, today ain't the day. I don't feel like going to work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna just stay at home and have that extra income to come in. So a lot of times I push through um, a lot
Mm-hmm.
and just kept, going to work, just going to work. And a lot of times, what I'm also noticing now after going through a lot of therapy and everything is that um, part of my PTSD too comes with me avoiding a lot of things. So I'm a person that always stay busy
Mm-hmm.
and don't allow myself to actually relax or just take in that moment. I'm always finding things to keep myself keep myself busy.
Mm-hmm.
But then a lot of times when I keep myself busy and put too much on, then I get overwhelmed
Okay.
and everything. And with women and men, when it comes down to PTSD, um, we hide it a lot
Yes.
because those experiences, traumatic experiences that we have experienced, we always want to try to get ourselves at least back to normal,
Mm-hmm.
or what we consider was normal prior to everything that was happening. Where a lot of times you really can't get back to normal because you can't change what happened and what you experienced and what you've been through, but you just have to find different ways to cope with it
Mm-hmm.
and to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I know for um, myself, I oh, for myself, I had to really get to the point where I enjoyed what I did on going to work, but I was more stressed working than I was being at home. And that's how I knew, um, again something else was going on too. Was because most people enjoy going to work to escape whatever they may have going on at home. Well, as far as me being a single parent raising two young girls at the time, I mean, we didn't have all that confusion or chaos or dysfunction at home, and I found being at home was more of my peace than being out and about interacting uh, with a lot of people. And I had to make the decision on whether I continued to work or, um, and how did I do it? Basically, I had to get to the point where I had to choose myself because I needed to get the help and the guidance. And with me working, I wasn't going to be able to focus and get all that I needed to get or as treatment and this, that, and the other because I would have been juggling between, okay, do I keep this appointment or do I continue to go to work? So it would have been that. So I can say when I did choose to no longer work, which I wind up doing medical retirement from the VA. And when I did come to that decision with myself that it was time for me to focus on myself and everything, I say that was like the best decision that I've made. As far as the military, I had to retire from the military um, due to um, me having fibromyalgia, which was another um, disorder that you can develop from having PTSD, where your body's always in a stress induced type status, I want to say, where it's always constantly stressed that then you start developing other ailments and
Oh,
everything.
okay.
And as far as my PTSD, although I was officially diagnosed back in like 2013. Well, I guess you could say when I was able to get compensation and pension, and be classified as a disabled veteran. It wasn't until 2013, but I had always started receiving care through the VA since um, December of 2010. And before they did diagnose me with PTSD, they initially diagnosed me with adjustment disorder, with mixed anxiety and mood syndrome before they came to the PTSD. And with that, I just had a hard time with like I can meet new friends, I can meet people. I don't have a problem with meeting people. I can meet people, but as far as maintaining friendship with those individuals, I may not be able to maintain um, the
Right.
friendship. So,
So
like
this
my
has a
friendship circle, mm-hmm.
so this has affected you not just physically and emotionally, but psychologically, from what um,
Yeah,
from what you've just shared. I mean, someone who I've been a psych nurse for what 7 years, 8 years now, and I talk to a lot of veterans and people in general, working in behavioral health who suffer with PTSD from whatever traumatic experience they went through, and a lot of times they report trouble sleeping, changes in weight,
Yeah.
fluctuations in energy level, having problems with maintaining social relationships and love, you know, romantic relationships, inability to function at work or social events, feelings of anxiety and depression, and physical symptoms, actual pain, headaches, body aches. And based on what you've told me, you've experienced, if not all of these symptoms, many of them. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So,
have. Because far as social gatherings, um, I'm very cautious when I
hmm
go out to certain things. Like I want to say, and I don't mind trying new things. I'll try new things,
hmm
even if it means for me try it only that one time. All I can say is I came, I saw, and I'm
hmm
done. I don't have to do it no more. But I think I want to say I went to a soccer game for the first time, and it was it was free because it was a program that I was in through the VA. They was able to get free tickets for veterans. And when I went, of course, I didn't go with a group of people. I went by myself, but I did run into some other veterans there.
hmm
But on my route going, I had to talk to myself and be like, okay, I got this free ticket. Let me go to the event. If I ain't never got to go to another soccer game ever again, at least I've been to one.
hmm
And I did get on the mortar and everything. And I mean, it was tons and tons and tons of people that was there. So the whole while I'm going to the game and I'm looking at all the people in front of me and all the people on the side of me and back of me and this, that, and the other. And the first thing that was coming to my mind was, I'm gonna be gone before this game over with. There's so many people
hmm
that I'm gonna have to be dealing with to be trying to get on the train and this, that,
hmm
and other. I was like, I got to leave before this crowd,
hmm
you know, gets out. And I mean, that's just basically what I did. I did run into some other veterans when I went to try to get me something to eat, and then I asked them. I was like, "Oh, how long have y'all been here? When y'all leaving?" They was like, "Shoot, we leaving before halftime." They said, "Matter of fact, in a few minutes we get ready to leave." I said, "Okay, well let me know because I'm about to be gone too." So I do notice that I don't like being in crowds. And before a doctor actually wrote a letter to when I was looking to go back to school to get my bachelor's degree in sociology, she wrote a letter for me to get reasonable accommodations at school. And in her letter, she was saying, "Oh, she can't be around crowds, and she can't be this, and she can't be that, and this, that, and the other." And me not knowing, I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. What she mean? I can't be around this and I can't be around that. How she gonna say this and how she gonna say that? But then I sat down and I thought about it. And I was like, you know what? I have been in a lot of situations where I've been around crowds and my mood will be fine. But it's like once someone gets into my personal space, which I perceive as my personal space, and they may be getting too close to me and it's a crowd of people, then my whole mood just changes.
Do you
I
remember?
become very on guard and I'm watching everything.
Do you
And
listen?
if I'm with huh?
Do you remember? Sorry to interrupt you, but I gotta tell you this story before I forget. Do you remember you and I going to a Maxwell concert in Atlanta? You remember when Maxwell came to play?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we met Emmanuel Lewis in the parking lot that night too. Was that the same night?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We did.
So and it's funny because at the time I just, I guess I wasn't working in psychiatry yet. So it didn't faze me. But I remember at the time we were at the concert and we were having a blast. You came out of your shell, and at the time I didn't know that everything that you had gone through and that you were suffering with PTSD. But now that you bring up, being around crowds, I remember that night, as soon as Maxwell put that microphone down and said good night, you were already headed for the exit. You were like, okay, Farrah, let's go. Let's go before these people get out of their seats. People were still dancing, and you were like, I'm ready to go. Let's go. And we were the first people. We were the first people out of that theater and in the parking garage. And and now it makes sense. It makes sense to me because the fear of the crowds and the large gatherings and and again, you and I do a lot. We hung around together a lot before I moved back to New York. We went to how many what do you call those things? Essence festivals.
Yeah, it been two.
Right? Remember?
Yeah. Well, in one of them we did. I was fresh out the desert. That was the
Yes.
first one we ever did.
Mhm. Yeah.
We went in July. I had just came. It was in 2009. We went in July. I had just came home. It was
Yes.
June.
I remember. I remember, and there was a lot of people at Essence Festival. A lot of people.
Mhm.
So when I talk about you overcoming your fears and being so resilient, this is what I mean. I mean, I can't imagine me coming from Iraq and seeing what I saw and experiencing what I experiencing, and you're gonna tell me, "Oh, let's go to the amphitheater where Hurricane Katrina uh, was housing a whole bunch of people, not just a couple of years prior, but." There's gonna be about a hundred
Right.
thousand people there, so let's go there. That would be the last place that I'd want to go to, you know.
Right.
But I'm glad, we did, you know. So are you in counseling? Because I know at one point you were getting counseling. Are you still receiving counseling?
Yeah, I'm still receiving counseling.
Okay.
One this intensive program that I just finished that all of the VAs possibly have this program, which is PRRC program,
Mhm.
and PRRC stands for Psychosocial Rehabilitation and Recovery Center.
Mhm.
And basically, with being in that program was a mandatory year participation with, depending on anyone's situation and what's going on, that they can extend up to 18 months.
Mhm.
So to do the whole 18-month program, so they can extend an additional 16 months to get up to 18 months. And and then to be still depending on a veteran's circumstances and situations, they could possibly extend longer in the program. And with that program, it brings other veterans that together that may be dealing with sometimes some of the same um, mental disabilities that you may be dealing with, or any facet of a mental disability, as well as if you dealt with substance abuse and everything. So it brings them together, and we do. I wind up experiencing the group during COVID, so
Mhm.
I didn't get the true benefits of the group of
Mhm.
how it was
Mhm.
pre-COVID,
Right.
where majority of my classes were online through VDC, which was a program for the VA, where you used your phone or your laptop or iPad to be in the class. It's almost like a Zoom class.
That's right. You did.
Or
You
I
did.
was on the phone
You did go back and get your
for certain
degree.
classes.
You did.
Hmm.
You did go back and get your degree, right? I remember that now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So,
Congratulations.
and I took a variety of classes, um, that was gonna basically you take classes that you work on goals that you're looking to um, accomplish while in the program.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a vast variety of classes from anger management classes, although I felt I don't have a anger issue, but I know I can get angry. But I took that class just to to see and get more knowledge and understanding that if I if I do become angry, sometimes it's okay. It's okay to have, certain outbursts. It's just all according to what you do after you have that outburst or how you're going to handle that outburst. And
Yes.
I took meditation classes,
Mm-hmm.
um, took a compassion class. I mean, I did yoga classes. I did a variety of different classes that was able to help me. And I can say that even with all the counseling and the classes that I have been in, I can say sometimes in that moment when I'm taking those classes, I'll be like, I don't need none of this stuff. I don't know why I'm taking this class and this, that, and other. But then later on, after taking the class,
Mm-hmm.
I see how I can factor in a lot of that, a lot of the coping mechanisms that they gave into my everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
So in that moment, I may feel that, I'm just going through the motions, but I am learning a lot about myself, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and also I'm able to look at it and learn more about, other people because I've always been a compassionate and empathetic person towards others and sympathetic towards others. But when it came down to myself, I didn't show myself much um,
Yes.
compassion. I
Yes.
just took my little licks and kept pushing.
Mm-hmm. Self-love is very important. Self-care and
Yes, it is.
self-love.
It is. I'm still trying to
Mm-hmm.
get to that moment. I thought of how to do self care stuff and try to do it in house. A lot of stuff requires you to go outside, and I'm getting to the point now that um, I don't have very many people that I can do a lot of stuff with, or going to spa days or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. So I'm getting to the point where, if I have to do it by myself, then um, I don't mind doing it. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times I just gotta talk myself into leaving the house to go do it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it seems like the counseling and, well, like I always say, the first step in recovery for any illness is admitting that there is a problem.
Yeah, correct.
And, you're past that stage of self admission. You've taken that, you've gone the extra mile. And based on all the activities that you just described, you're finding ways to not only cope, but get better, get over it, get better. So,
Mhm.
and you're on the right track. So, my question to you is, I know you touched on a lot of things. What advice would you give to people out there who are suffering with PTSD right now, especially fellow veterans? I mean, COVID has magnified the problems um, that veterans were already suffering with, and people were already suffering with. And what's funny is, it's not just the people with the illness, but when somebody has PTSD, I look at it as their loved ones having PTSD, their caregivers having PTSD, their family members having PTSD. Because,
Mhm.
it doesn't just affect, that person, but I can imagine someone waking up in the middle of the night screaming from being in combat and hearing loud noises, you know, and their husband or their wife is sleeping right next to them, or
Yeah.
they have moments where there's a family barbecue going on and it's just a bad day, they can't leave the house. So it affects the kids, it affects the parents, the siblings, people at work, your neighbors. PTSD affects not just the patient but the whole community. So
Yeah, and with that is, I guess you could say, depending on the severity of it.
mhm.
For as me, I really don't know how it may have affected my children,
Right.
but I have heard from other people. Whereas if I say I have PTSD, but then they may see me out and about attempting to enjoy life, because for them they think I'm enjoying
Mhm.
where I'm attempting to enjoy, because they don't know what I had to go through to even get myself to that point to even be outside the house. So
Mhm.
a lot of people look like, oh, you can't have PTSD because I see you posting on Facebook. You be smiling. You be this. You be at this concert. You be at that concert, and this, that, and the other.
Mhm.
And during those times that I was at a lot of those concerts was before I actually got diagnosed with it. So I really didn't know what all the different emotions that I would display
Mhm.
when I was in those crowds and what all it was. Until, like I said, a doctor wrote it out on a letter and I
Mhm.
read it, and then I had to recall the episodes of when my whole attitude would change in certain situations.
Mhm.
Even with watching certain movies, I don't watch a lot of movies that have a lot of gun violence,
Mhm.
because just to hear a gun shoot or fire or whatever, I'm jumping.
Yes.
Even to be in my house, I can be in the house by myself,
Mhm.
or my daughter can be in the house and she can be in a whole other room, and I can be in the room. And if we don't walk hard, and it's times where she didn't came in the room and surprised the hell out of me and had me jumping, because I was
Mhm.
like, I just looked and nobody was there, and now I
Right.
look again and somebody's standing there. So just to be very hyper vigilant. I
Mhm.
mean, but I don't know. Some people is just different, but yeah, a lot of the male veterans. I don't know too many female veterans that display some of the things that you talked about um when I care for them, but I know a lot of the male veterans, they
Mhm.
become very volatile depending on what all they had to endure during
Mhm.
their time of combat
Mhm.
in this, that, and the other with their PTSD. But what
Right.
I can say is, basically, find somebody that would be able to understand and
Mhm.
listen to what all you have to say.
Right.
Sometimes, if you confide in another veteran, a lot of times you never know that they may not have went through the same thing that you've been through, but they
Mhm.
experienced some of it and they know the different feelings. Because I know even when I returned back to work and I enjoyed caring for my veterans, and it was like to speak to my coworkers, because some of them wasn't veterans, some of them was veterans, some of them didn't even see combat. So it was like to talk to them after I returned. It was like they ain't gonna understand what I'm talking about. They ain't gonna know nothing wrong with me, or this, that, and the other. And then to triage a veteran, and we go to talking, and they start talking about they did a tour here or they were part of combat. For me, it was just like, it lit me up because I was like, oh, I know what I'm talking about. We can understand each other and this, that, and other. And then after I got finished talking to him, I was back down to saying, don't nobody understand what I'm going through. I don't nobody know what I'm going through. So
Yeah.
a lot of times you never know. Someone probably has experienced some of the same things. And even with me working with veterans and then me going through the experience, me meeting other veterans, I was able to, give them some insight and um, some guidance when it came down to them probably looking at their self um, being evaluated for PTSD and this, that, and other because, you know, PTSD displays itself in so many ways. Some
Oh,
people have
yeah, definitely.
PTSD and then they go to drinking. They go to doing drugs and this, that, and the other. And you may just think that, oh, this person is just drinking just to be drinking, or they're out here doing drugs, or they're wasting away their life. But you never know what was the situation before that caused them to start doing this. Especially if it was somebody that was never, that you probably know in your family that was never drinking or was never, doing drugs. Then after this particular incident, you was like, oh, this person, went and did drugs and everything. And then don't let the stigma of having a mental illness stop you from seeking care or trying to be the best that you can be because for years as, you know, African Americans or whatever other nationality, ethnicity, and this, that, and other, one of the things was that don't go see a mental health doctor. Pray to God, it'll go away, and this, that, and other. And a lot of times that's not the case. Or you don't want to go, get checked out and looked at yourself because you're gonna get labeled.
Yeah.
But it's best to seek that care because you never know. Somebody you talk to again may have been going through that same stuff, but don't always take all their advice. Still get professional help at the certain time.
Okay. Well, Miss Stewart, you and I have been friends for 15 years now,
Yep.
if my math is correct. So, I mean, like I said, I don't consider you just a colleague or a friend. You're like a sister to me. And you can always pick up the phone and call me, day or night. And if you need an hour of therapy, you got it, free of charge. Okay?
Yeah. I'm the same. My favorite nurse practitioner.
You know, yeah. So thank you for, opening up and sharing your most personal thoughts and experiences with me and the audience who's going to be listening to this. And three things I gather from your story is the way to get better or to attempt to get better from PTSD is one, don't listen to the stigma. Don't be afraid of labels. Number
Mm-hmm.
two, number two, get professional help. Sometimes prayer is good, meditation is good, massages are good, alternative therapy is good, all of that is good. But ultimately sometimes you need to go and lay on that black couch.
Mm-hmm.
Get professional help. And number three is to persevere. Never, ever, ever stop trying. Every day that you're alive is a day that things can get better. Never, never stop trying.
Mm-hmm.
And with that,
Yep.
um, you know, people, there are resources out there. There are emotional support groups. There are suicide hotlines. Then, find resources in your area that can help. and I'm pretty sure they're all confidential. Find your resources. Google is a great resource. Pick up your phone, your tablets, your computers, go to Google, and find your nearest mental health service that can help you get over this, or help you, cope with this. Not get over it, but cope with it. And a lot of these services are free of charge, absolutely free. Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today, and keep going, girl. That's all I can say. All right.
And then for your listeners also is that don't let nobody determine who you are and what you are with
Exactly.
your mental disabilities.
Amen.
Because, they could be suffering with the same thing, but they're just not brave enough to get the help.
Yes.
Or they could be dealing with some of the same things. And like I always tell my children is that a lot of times, not everybody gonna let you read every page in their book.
Correct.
They're gonna tell you what they want you to know out their book that they call life.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna pick and choose what they want to tell, and they're gonna pick and choose, you know, what they say to you and how they say it to you. And, even with having a mental disability, whatever it may be, is that, you're the one that has to live with it. You're the one that has to deal with it, every day. And if those people don't want to deal with you, just be okay with that. Not everybody is going to always want to deal with you, or not everybody is going to be accepting of you, that you have accepted
Mm-hmm.
what you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people don't want you to um, even talk about it, really, to even talk about what you're dealing with. What mental disabilities you maybe have. Maybe, I don't want to say suffer, because,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a good word, but just dealing with what you may be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And then too, if people do get mad because you accepted or accepted of what you have to deal with on an everyday basis, it's just that they wish that they could be more accepted of their self and what they're dealing with on a
Mm-hmm.
day-to-day basis. But some people can't.
Okay. Thank you, Iona. Well,
You're welcome.
we have 2 minutes left. I'm going to use these 2 minutes to say this is going to be one of a lot of discussions on health related topics and other issues affecting us and our community. So follow us on Facebook. The page is Nurse Vitals. Follow us on YouTube, Nurse Vitals. Look it up, YouTube, Nurse Vitals. And I'm excited to announce that we have a podcast on Spotify. I will be uploading this interview on Spotify, and hopefully, a lot of people will get to listen to Iona's story and will benefit from it. So with that, Happy New Year, folks. Stay safe. Take care, and hope to log in and share information with you again soon, and hope you're here to listen. Take care, guys. Thank you, Iona. Take care.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.